The first sign of trouble came on an ordinary Thursday evening, which, in retrospect, had been Jade's first clue that something was deeply wrong. Ordinary had stopped being part of their vocabulary around the time she'd married a dream demon and given birth to his reality warping child. She was making dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta with that jarred sauce he had declared acceptable after his initial skepticism about all things culinary. Lucas was at the kitchen table, now 4 years old, and practicing making his crimes levitate while he colored, which was the kind of multitasking that would have been impressive if it wasn't mildly concerning from a please don't do that in public perspective. Freddie was late. Not unusual, exactly. Sometimes he got caught up in dream realm maintenance or dealing with particularly stubborn nightmares that refused to stay in their designated territories. But there was something about this lateness that felt different, wrong. The bond between them, that invisible thread that connected her consciousness to his, felt strained, stretched thin, like he was very far away or very distracted, or both. Jade set down the wooden spoon and pressed a hand to her chest, trying to feel through the connection. Freddie? Everything okay? The response came back delayed, which never happened. His consciousness touched hers with an emotion she hadn't felt for human years, genuine concern mixed with something darker, something that tasted like old violence waking up. Stay inside, lock the doors, don't let Lucas out of your sight. I'll explain when I get home. Jade's stomach dropped. Freddie didn't do ominous warnings unless there was actual danger, and actual danger in their world meant something considerably more threatening than the average human concern. Lucas, baby, come here for a second. Her son looked up from his coloring, his eyes doing that shifting thing they did when he sensed her emotional state, blue bleeding into amber bleeding into silver. Mommy? You're scared. I can feel it. I'm cautious, not scared. There's a difference. Jade knelt down to his level, smoothing his dark hair back from his forehead. Hair that couldn't decide if it wanted to be black like Freddie's or red like hers, so it compromised by being both depending on the light. Daddy wants us to stay inside tonight. Extra safe. Can you do that for me? No phasing through walls, no shadow walking, no exploring the dream realm without permission. Did someone bad come in? I don't know yet, but we're going to be careful just in case. Lucas nodded seriously, his small face taking on an expression that was pure Freddie, assessing threats, calculating responses, way too mature for a 4-year-old. I can protect us if someone bad comes. I've been practicing with Daddy. I'm really good at nightmares now. I know you are, baby, but tonight, protecting us means listening to what I say and staying close, okay? Okay. Jade went through the apartment systematically, checking every lock on every door and window. She knew it was mostly symbolic. Locks didn't stop supernatural threats, but it made her feel better, gave her hands something to do while her mind raced through possibilities. Who or what would make Freddie send a warning like that? He dealt with countless threats over the years, dispatched stalkers, and protected them from various dangers without breaking a sweat. What was different about tonight? Freddie materialized in their living room at 8 p.m., and Jade's breath caught. He was in his demon form, which he rarely used at home anymore. The scarred, burned features, the fedora pulled low, the glove with its blades catching the lamplight, but it was his expression that stopped her cold. She'd seen Freddie angry before, possessive, violently protective, but this was something else. This was ancient rage, barely contained. The Nightmare King, remembering exactly what he'd been before love, had softened his edges. Freddie, what's wrong? He looked at Lucas first, and something in his expression gentled fractionally. Buddy, I need you to go to your room for a bit. Daddy needs to talk to Mommy about grown-up things. Is it about the bad thing coming? How did you? Freddie stopped, shook his head. Your empathy's getting stronger. We'll work on shielding next week. Yeah, it's about the bad thing, but I promise you, nothing bad is going to happen to you or Mommy. I won't allow it. Lucas studied his father for a long moment, then nodded and headed to his room without argument. The door closed with a soft click, and immediately the shadows around it thickened. Freddie's subconscious protection activating, making sure their son was surrounded by defensive barriers even from inside the apartment. Jade waited until she was sure Lucas was out of earshot. Talk to me. What's happening? Freddie crossed to the window, staring out at the city lights like they held answers. When he spoke, his voice was rough with something that might have been regret or fury or both. There's a demon in the city. Old one. From before my death, before I became what I am now. We have history. What kind of history? The violent kind. When I was first learning to navigate the dream realm, newly dead and drunk on power, I wasn't exactly careful about territories. I pushed into spaces that weren't mine, made enemies of things that had been ruling nightmares for centuries. He turned to face her, and his eyes were burning amber. One of those things was Melkor. Dream demon, like me, but older. More powerful, or at least he was back then. We fought over territory, over feeding grounds, over who got to terrorize which sleepers, and I won. Badly. Left him broken and banished him to the deep dreams, the places where even nightmares don't like to go. Lenny, yes, he's back. He's back, and he's been watching, learning about my new life, about you and Lucas. Freddie's hands clenched into fists. He appeared in the dream realm tonight, showed me what he's been seeing, footage of you at the bookstore, of Lucas at his art class, of our family existing peacefully in the real world, and then he made it very clear that he intends to take everything from me the way I took everything from him when I won our territory war. Ice flooded Jade's veins. He threatened us. Explicitly. Described in detail what he was going to do, how he was going to make me watch while he destroyed everything I loved before finally killing me. Freddie's voice had dropped into that dangerous register that meant violence was imminent. He's powerful, Jade. Maybe more powerful than me now because I've been playing house while he's been nursing his rage in the dark. And he's coming. Soon. I can feel it building. So what do we do? We? There is no we in this. You and Lucas are going to stay here where I can protect you. I'm going hunting. Going to find Malakar before he makes his move and end this permanently. Freddie crossed to her in 3 long strides and pulled her against him, his burned face pressed against her hair. I need you to understand something. The thing I'm about to become, the monster I'm going to unleash to protect you, it's not the version of me you're used to. It's older, meaner. The nightmare I was before you taught me to be more than just fear incarnate, and I need you to not be afraid when you see it. Jade pulled back to look at him. I'm never afraid of you. You know that. You've never seen me at full power, never seen what I'm capable of when I stop holding back. His hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheekbone. I'm going to kill him, Jade, brutally, completely, and I'm going to enjoy it, because he threatened you and our son, and there's no mercy in me for that. Good, Jade said fiercely. Kill him. Tear him apart. Do whatever you have to do to end the threat. I trust you. I love you. If something happens to me, nothing is going to happen to you. But if it does, everything in the dream realm is yours. The palace, the territories, all of it. You have access through our bond. You'll be able to keep Lucas safe even if I'm gone. Stop talking like you're going to die. You're not going to die. You're going to destroy this asshole and come home to us. Jade kissed him hard, claiming, pouring every ounce of certainty she felt into the contact. You're the Springwood Slasher, the Nightmare King, the thing that terrifies nightmares. Some ancient demon with a grudge doesn't stand a chance against you when you're fighting to protect your family. Freddy kissed her back with desperate intensity, like he was memorizing the taste of her. Then he pulled away, his form already starting to shift into something more predatory, more dangerous. The version of himself that existed before domesticity had softened his edges. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone. If you feel anything wrong, anything at all, you wake up and pull yourself into the dream realm. I'll find you there. Understand? I understand. Go. Hunt. Protect us. Freddy disappeared into shadow. There, one moment, and gone the next. Jade stood in their living room, her heart pounding, her hands shaking slightly with adrenaline she couldn't release. Then she squared her shoulders and went to check on Lucas. She found him sitting on his bed, surrounded by shadows that were alert and watchful, protective darkness that Freddy had taught him to summon when he felt unsafe. Daddy went to fight the bad thing, Lucas said. It wasn't a question. Yeah, baby. He did. He's going to win. Daddy always wins. Always, Jade agreed, praying she was right. In the dream realm, Freddy tracked Malakar through landscapes that shifted and changed, following the signature of power that only another demon could sense. He'd forgotten this feeling, the pure predatory focus of hunting something dangerous, the way violence simplified everything down to kill or be killed. He'd been playing it civilized for years now, pretending he was more than just a nightmare in a fedora. And he was more than that, Jade had made sure of it. But underneath, the father and husband and reformed monster was still the thing that had terrorized Springwood for decades. Still, the nightmare that had built a legend on fear and blood. Malakar wanted that version of him? Fine. Freddy would give him exactly that. He found the rival demon in a dreamscape that looked like a twisted version of their old territory, the place where they'd first fought decades ago. Malakar was waiting, his form massive and ancient, shaped like smoke and razor wire, and everything that lurked in the dark corners of human consciousness. Kruger, Malakar's voice resonated through the dream space like thunder. You actually came. I thought domesticity might have made you cowardly. Domesticity made me more dangerous, Freddy replied, his voice cold. Now I have something to lose. That makes me desperate, and desperate nightmares don't fight fair. You think loving that human and breeding that half-thing child makes you strong, makes you weak, vulnerable. I'm going to peel her apart in her dreams and make you watch. Then I'm going to show that boy what real nightmare power looks like before I consume him. The words were chosen specifically to enrage, and they worked. Freddy felt the last shreds of his restraint snap. The careful control he cultivated, the boundaries he'd established, the rules he'd followed to keep himself from becoming the monster he'd been before Jade. All of it burned away in an instant, consumed by protective fury so intense it felt like fire in his veins. You talk too much, Freddy said, and attacked. The fight that followed was spectacular and vicious. Two ancient nightmares tearing at each other with powers that bent reality. The dreamscape shattered around them, fragmenting into thousands of mirror pieces that each showed different horrors. Freddy's bladed glove found flesh that reformed. Malakar's smoke-wrapped razor wire cut through defenses that rebuilt. They were evenly matched, which was the problem. Evenly matched meant prolonged. Prolonged meant Malakar might find an opening, might slip past Freddy's defenses and make good on his threats. Unacceptable. Freddy reached deeper into his power than he had in years, past the civilized nightmare, past the protective father, down to the core of what he was. Pure distilled fear given form and consciousness. The nightmare that had no mercy, no boundaries, no limits except the ones imposed on itself. He stopped fighting like he had something to lose and started fighting like he had everything to protect. The shift was immediate and devastating. Freddy's form exploded into something larger, more terrible, no longer remotely human-shaped, just nightmare given complete freedom to be what it was. Teeth and claws and blades and burning eyes and the absolute conviction that nothing was going to threaten his family and survive. Malakar realized his mistake too late. He'd been fighting the reformed Freddy, the one who held back, who played by rules, but that Freddy had left the building, and what remained was the thing that had built a legend on being unkillable and merciless. Wait, Malakar tried, genuine fear bleeding into his voice for the first time. We can negotiate. No, Freddy said, and his voice shook the foundations of the dream realm. You threaten mine. There's no negotiation for that. There's only ending. What happened next was brutal and absolute. Freddy tore into Malakar with a violence that was beautiful in its complete conviction. No hesitation, no mercy, just systematic destruction of something that had dared to threaten what he loved. When it was over, Malakar was dissolving. The rival demon's form coming apart at the seams, his power bleeding out into the dream realm like smoke dissipating. But Freddy had learned things over the years, learned how to manipulate dream energy in ways that went beyond simple terror, and as he watched Malakar die, an idea formed. Reckless and possibly brilliant, dangerous and definitely worth trying. Demons didn't truly die. Their power just dispersed, redistributed across the dream realm, until eventually it coalesced into something new. But what if you caught that power before it dispersed? What if you absorbed it, contained it, used it? Freddy reached out with his consciousness and grabbed Malakar's essence as it tried to flee. Raw power, ancient and vast and absolutely hostile. It fought him, burning through his defenses, trying to consume him from the inside. He held on anyway. Because that power wasn't for him, it was for Jade. His queen, who'd given up so much to be with him, who accepted his darkness and loved him anyway, who deserved to stand beside him not as a mortal protected by a demon, but as an equal, as an immortal in her own right with power that matched his. Freddy pulled the struggling essence through the dream realm and into their bond, the connection between his consciousness and Jade's, that invisible thread that let them feel each other across dimensions. He pushed Malakar's power into that space and let it flow toward her. In the apartment, Jade was dozing on the couch, unable to sleep properly, but too exhausted to stay fully awake. Lucas was asleep in his room, protected by layers of shadow and nightmare magic that would alert her if anything threatened him. She felt Freddy's victory through the bond before she understood what was happening. Relief and satisfaction, and that particular flavor of violence satisfied that meant he ended the threat permanently. Then something else came through the connection. Power. Massive and foreign, and burning through her consciousness like lightning. Jade gasped, her body arching on the couch, her mind trying to process what was happening. The power was reshaping her, taking her human consciousness and expanding it, stretching it to accommodate things humans weren't meant to hold. She could feel the dream realm suddenly, not as a place she visited when sleeping, but as a space she existed in. Part of her consciousness was there, had always been there, through her bond with Freddy, but now it was active, aware, powerful. Jade's eyes snapped open, and they were glowing, shifting colors like Lucas's eyes, but brighter, blue to green to amber to silver, cycling through shades that reflected the power now thrumming through her. She stood from the couch on legs that felt different, stronger, like her body was remembering that it was temporary, just a shell for consciousness that could exist in other forms. The apartment around her looked different too. She could see the layers now, the real world, solid and present, but underneath it, the dream realm pressing close. The barrier between worlds that was so thin here, in the space where Freddy existed in both. Then she could feel him. Not just through their bond, but directly. His consciousness blazing in the dream realm like a beacon, still in that ancient predatory form, still riding the high of violence completed, still dangerous. Still hers. Jade closed her eyes and reached for the dream realm the way she'd seen Freddy do 1,000 times. Instead of waiting to sleep, she just pushed, and reality bent. The apartment faded, dreamscape solidified, and she was standing in the space where Freddy had just destroyed Malakar. Freddy turned, his nightmare form still fully manifested, and froze when he saw her. Jade wasn't in her physical body, she was dreamwalking, her consciousness projected into his realm. But she wasn't translucent or ghostly like she'd been the few times she'd tried this before. She was solid, real, powerful. Her form was shifting slightly, trying to decide what shape to take in the space where thought became reality. She settled into something that felt right, herself, but more. Taller, more confident, dressed in armor that looked like it was made from midnight and starlight, her wild red hair flowing like it had its own gravity, her eyes glowing with that shifting color that marked her as something other than human now. Jade? Freddy's voice was rough with disbelief. How are you here? You're not asleep. I don't need to sleep anymore. I can feel it. The dream realm. It's part of me now. Jade looked around the shattered dreamscape, at the remnants of the battle, at what was left of Malakar dissipating into nothing. What did you do? I gave you his power. All of it. Made you immortal. Freddy's form was shrinking, returning to his usual demon shape, fedora and glove and burn features. I probably should have asked first, but I was standing there watching all that power disperse, and all I could think was that you deserved it. Deserved to be more than human. To stand beside me as an equal instead of someone I had to constantly protect from the dangers of my world. Jade tested her new power, reaching out with consciousness that now extended into the dream realm naturally. Shadows responded to her will. The shattered dreamscape began to reform, following her desires. She could shape it, manipulate it, create and destroy with thought alone. I can feel everything, she said, wonder in her voice. Every dream in the city, every nightmare, every sleeping mind. It's like having a sixth sense that perceives an entirely different dimension of reality. That's what it feels like to be a dream entity, to exist in both worlds simultaneously. Freddy approached her carefully, like he was afraid she might reject what he'd done. Are you angry? I forced this on you without consent. Changed you fundamentally. Made you into something that's not entirely human anymore. Jade turned to look at him, and her smile was fierce. Angry? Freddy, this is the most incredible gift anyone's ever given me. I can feel the power. I'm immortal now. Really immortal. I won't age. Won't die. I can exist beside you forever, without the clock ticking down. She crossed to him and pulled him close. You made me your equal. How could I possibly be angry? You're sure? Because there's no taking this back. You're bound to the dream realm now, the way I am. You'll need it. Need to exist in both worlds to feel complete. That's not always easy. I married a dream demon and had his baby. Easy stopped being part of my vocabulary years ago. Jade kissed him, and the contact was different now. Power meeting power, consciousness pressing against consciousness. They were matched in ways they'd never been before. Show me what I can do. Teach me to use this. What followed was hours of exploration. Freddy teaching Jade to manipulate the dream realm with the same ease he did, showing her how to shape nightmares and dreams, how to walk between worlds without needing sleep, how to sense threats and opportunities across the barrier between waking and sleeping. She was a quick study, her human creativity combined with nightmare power to create effects that surprised even Freddy. Where he built with darkness and fear, she built with beauty twisted into something dangerous. Gardens that lured you in and trapped you. Palaces that looked welcoming but hid teeth. Dreams that felt safe until they suddenly weren't. You're terrifying, Freddy said with undisguised admiration. That's meant as a compliment. Most new dream entities take decades to develop this level of control. You're doing it in hours. I have a good teacher, and I'm motivated. Jade created a throne beside the ones in their palace, crafting it from the same nightmare material, but making it distinctly hers. Royal blue instead of shadow black. Elegant rather than menacing. I want to protect our family the way you protect us. Want to be able to fight beside you instead of being the one who needs protecting. You were never weak, Jade. Human doesn't mean helpless. But immortal means eternal, and I want eternal with you, with Lucas. I want to be there for all of it, not just the handful of decades my human lifespan would have given me. You gave me that, forever. They returned to the apartment as dawn started breaking, both of them sliding back into their physical forms. Jade's body felt different now, stronger, like it was a container for something vast rather than the sum total of what she was. Lucas was awake, standing in the living room with shadows swirling around him protectively. He looked between his parents, his shifting eyes going wide. Mommy feels different. You're like Daddy now, all powerful and dreamy. Dreamy, Jade repeated with amusement. That's one way to put it. Yeah, baby, Mommy's different now. Daddy gave me a gift. I'm going to live forever, just like him. Which means I get to be your mom forever. No getting rid of me. Good, Lucas said finally. I don't want you to go away, ever. Regular kids' parents get old and die. I don't want that. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Freddy scooped up their son, holding him close. Your mom's immortal now. Dream entity like me, which means this family is forever. All of us. They spent the day adjusting to the new normal. Jade discovered she could feel the dream realm constantly now, her background presence in her consciousness. Every person who fell asleep within a certain radius registered to her awareness. She could sense their dreams, their nightmares, their fears and hopes playing out in unconscious symbolism. It was overwhelming at first, too much information, but Freddy taught her to filter it, how to choose what to pay attention to, and what to let fade into background noise. You'll develop your own territories eventually, he explained while they made lunch. Spaces in the dream realm that are specifically yours, where your power is absolute, and other entities can't enter without permission. It happens naturally as you figure out your identity as a dream being. What kind of territories did you develop? The boiler room was my original. The place I died, recreated in dreams as my anchor point. Then I expanded into nightmare spaces, places of industrial decay and fire and fear, all reflections of what I was. He paused, considering. Since meeting you, I've developed other spaces too. The palace, the garden, places that reflect what I've become rather than what I was. I want to build something beautiful, Jade decided. Something that's mine, but also ours. A space where our family can exist in dreams without fear, where Lucas can learn to use his powers without worrying about accidentally hurting someone. Then we'll build it together, king and queen shaping their kingdom. That night, their first night with Jade fully immortal and powerful, they put Lucas to bed and then dove into the dream realm together. Not through sleep, but through conscious transition, stepping sideways out of reality and into the space between. The palace Freddy had built was their starting point, massive and impossible, sprawling across dream territory that technically didn't have physical dimensions, but felt vast anyway. They walked through halls that shifted based on their moods, past windows that showed different realities, under ceilings that were sometimes sky and sometimes stone and sometimes nothing at all. This is ours, Freddy said, but it was always mine first, built from my power and my vision. I want you to reshape it, add your influence, make it truly ours instead of just mine that I'm sharing with you. Jade reached out with her new power, feeling the structure of the palace, the nightmare energy that formed its bones, the dream logic that kept it stable, the sheer will that made it real in a realm where reality was negotiable. Then she began to change it. Where Freddy had built with darkness and menace, Jade added light and beauty, not soft or gentle, but fierce and sharp. Stained glass windows that showed their history together appeared along corridors. Gardens bloomed in courtyards that hadn't existed moments before, filled with flowers that were both beautiful and vaguely threatening. The throne room gained warmth without losing its grandeur, becoming a space that felt lived in rather than just impressive. It's perfect, Freddy said, watching her work with undisguised awe. You're taking something that was imposing and making it home. Because that's what it should be. Our home, our safe space, our kingdom. Jade settled into her new throne, and it adjusted to fit her perfectly. I want Lucas to grow up knowing he has a place in both worlds. That he doesn't have to choose between being human and being nightmare. That he can be both, and both are okay. He will. We'll make sure of it. Freddy sat beside her, and they looked out over their domain, vast and strange and absolutely theirs. You know what this means, right? You being immortal, being powerful. There's no going back to normal. You can't unknow what you know now. Can't unfeel the dream realm. You're fundamentally changed. Good. I was never that fond of normal anyway. Normal got boring around the time I fell in love with a nightmare demon. This? Jade gestured to the palace, to a new form, to the power throbbing through her consciousness. This is exactly what I want. Forever with you. Power to protect our family. The ability to shape reality itself. I regret nothing. Not even giving up your humanity. I'm not giving it up. I'm expanding it. I'm still me, just more. Still Jade Anderson, who loves true crime and royal blue and making terrible jokes. But now, I'm also Jade Kruger, queen of nightmares, immortal ruler of the dream realm beside her terrifying husband. I contain multitudes. Freddy laughed, and the sound echoed through their palace. Multitudes. I like that. The human who became a dream queen without losing what made her human in the first place. They made love in the throne room because they could. Because power and desire were tangled together into something that demanded expression. Jade's new immortal form meant she could match Freddy's intensity without fear of being overwhelmed. Could take everything he gave and give it back with equal force. It was different from their previous encounters, more equal. Two beings of immense power choosing to be vulnerable with each other, choosing connection over conquest, choosing love over the violence they were both capable of. When they finally pulled apart, both thoroughly satisfied and slightly surprised by the intensity of it, the throne room had transformed around them. The walls were glowing with symbols that represented their union. Nightmare and Dreamer merged into something unprecedented. That's new, Jade observed, looking at the symbols. That's us, Freddy corrected, the dream realm responding to what we are together, marking this space as belonging to both of us equally, king and queen, partners in every way that matters. They returned to their physical forms near dawn, collapsing into their bed with the exhausted satisfaction of people who'd spent the night remaking reality to suit their desires. Jade could feel her new power settling, integrating into her consciousness until it felt natural. Like it had always been there, and she was just now remembering it. Freddy, she said into the comfortable darkness of their bedroom. Thank you, for choosing to share the power instead of just keeping me protected and mortal, for making me your equal instead of your responsibility. Thank you for not being angry that I forced immortality on you without asking first. Best decision you've made since deciding not to kill me that first night in the boiler room. Second best decision. Best decision was making you my wife. Sappy, I love it. They drifted towards sleep, though sleep meant something different for both of them now, not unconsciousness, but a shifting of awareness. Consciousness that existed in both worlds simultaneously, experiencing dreams and reality as equally valid states of being. The dream realm welcomed Jade like it had been waiting for her all along, territories that recognized her as queen, nightmares that bent to her will, dreams that reshaped themselves based on her desires. She was part of it now, fundamentally and eternally. And she never felt more free. The sun rose on a new era for their family. Freddy and Jade, king and queen of nightmares, ruling their domain together. Lucas, the prince who would grow up with parents who could guide him through both worlds, who could teach him to wield his power without shame or fear, who could show him what it meant to be something unprecedented. They'd survived the threat from Freddy's past, had turned it into opportunity, had emerged stronger and more unified than ever. And somewhere in the dream realm, in territories that were still forming and solidifying, Jade began to build, creating spaces that reflected who she was and what she valued. Libraries filled with stories that had never been written, gardens where impossible flowers bloomed, sanctuaries where dreamers could rest without fear of nightmare. She was the queen of dreams now. Not nightmares, though she could craft those too when needed, but dreams, hope and beauty and fierce protection, the light to Freddy's darkness, the creation to his destruction, the balance that had always been missing from the dream realm's power structure. Together, they were complete. Nightmare and dream, fear and hope, darkness and light. Two halves of a whole that was greater than the sum of its parts. The dreamer's legacy had begun. Not Freddy's legacy or Jade's legacy, but theirs together. The family that existed in both worlds. The love that had conquered death and power and every boundary reality tried to impose. They were eternal now, all of them, and they were just getting started. The Nightmare King and his Dream Queen. The prince who walked between worlds, building a kingdom from impossible love and fierce devotion, writing a story that would echo through the dream realm for millennia. Forever and always, in every world, in every form, choosing each other, choosing power, choosing love. And that was the greatest magic of all.